down the hall. He slid out of the bed, wincing as his bare feet made contact with the cold floor. He crossed the room silently to the window, gazing out at the moonlit, snowy fields that covered the ground as far as the eye could see. Dreams. They terrified him. Belial had come to him through dreams as long as he could remember. He had seen the bleak kingdoms of the demons in his dreams, had seen Belial kill in his dreams. He did not know, even now, when a dream was just that, a dream, and when it was some terrible truth. The black and white world outside reflected back only the desolation of winter. They were somewhere near the frozen river Tamar. They'd stopped last night when the snow had gotten too thick to ride through. It had not been a pretty, flurrying shower either, or even a chaotic, blowing squall. This snow had direction and purpose, beating down at a sharp angle against the bare slate-brown ground, like an unending volley of arrows. Despite having done nothing but sit in a carriage all day, James had felt exhausted. He'd barely managed to force down some hot soup before making his way upstairs to collapse into bed. Magnus and Will had remained in the saloon, in armchairs near the fire, talking in low voices. James guessed that they were discussing him. Let them. He didn't care. It was the third night since they'd left London, on a mission to find James's sister, Lucie, who had gone off with the warlock Malcolm Fade and the preserved corpse of Jessie Blackthorn, for a purpose dark and frightening enough that none of them wished to speak the word they all dreaded: necromancy. The important thing, Magnus stressed, was to get to Lucie as soon as possible, which was not as easy as it sounded. Magnus knew that Malcolm had a house in Cornwall, but not exactly where, and Malcolm had blocked any attempt at tracking the fugitives. They'd had to fall back on a more old-fashioned approach. They stopped often, at various downworld watering holes along the route. Magnus would chat with the locals, while James and Will were relegated to waiting in the carriage, keeping their Shadowhunter selves well hidden. "None of them will tell me anything if they think I'm travelling with Nephilim," Magnus had said. "Your time will come when we arrive at Malcolm's and must deal with him and Lucie." This evening, he told James and Will that he thought he might have found the house, that they could easily make it there with a few hours' journey the next morning. If it was not the right place, they'd journey on. James was desperate to find Lucie, not just because he was worried about her, although he was, but because of everything else happening in his life. Everything that he had put aside, told himself not to think about, until he found his sister and knew she was safe. "James?" The sleepy voice cut into his thoughts. James turned away from the window to see his father sitting up in bed. "Jamie Bach, what's the trouble?" James gazed at his father. Will looked tired, his mane of black hair disarrayed. People often told James that he was like Will, which he knew was a compliment. All his life, his father had seemed the strongest man he knew, the most principled, the most fierce with his love. Will did not question himself. No, James was nothing like Will Herondale. Resting his back against the cold window, he said, "Just a bad dream." Will looked thoughtful. "You had one of those last night, too, and the night before. Is there something you'd like to talk about, Jamie?" For a moment, James imagined unburdening himself to his father. Belial, Grace, the bracelet, Cordelia, Lilith, all of it. But the picture in his mind did not hold. He could not imagine his father's reaction. He could not imagine speaking the words. He had held it all inside so long, he did not know how to do anything but hold on further, tighter, protecting